Black Bear Caucus. Good evening. I'll call the regular Planning Commission meeting of Tuesday, November 7th, 2023 to order, and I'll ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Good evening, Planning Commissioners. Chair Klein.
Here.
Vice Chair Rudine. Here. Commissioner Wilkerson. Commissioner Fortney.
Here.
Commissioner Vargas.
Here.
Commissioner Lightfoot.
Here.
Commissioner Bonta. Here. Chair, we have a quorum.
Thank you, Nancy. Everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, and I'll ask Commissioner Wilkerson to please lead us in the salute.
Please repeat after me.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks, John. We'll now move on with regular business, starting off with communications. At this time, I will ask staff if there are any communications or announcements for this evening's meeting.
There are no announcements and no communications.
Thank you, Director Morris. We'll move on to approval of this evening's agenda. Do I have a motion? Moved by Commissioner Wilkerson. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Vice Chair Rudine. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Wilkerson. Commissioner Fortney.
Yes.
Commissioner Vargas.
Yes.
Commissioner Lightfoot.
Yes.
Commissioner Bonta.
Yes.
Vice Chair Rudine.
Yes.
Chair Klein.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Our next item is business from the floor. This portion of the agenda is available for the public to address the Planning Commission on any issue that is not on the agenda. There will be a limit of 3 minutes per speaker. I welcome anyone who wishes to address the Commission regarding a topic or issue that is not on the agenda to please approach the podium at this time. Okay, we'll now close public comment and move on with the consent agenda. We have one item on consent, which is the minutes from the September 19 and October 3rd, 2023 meetings. Does anyone from the Commission or the public wish to pull the consent item for discussion? All right, do I have a motion? Moved by Vice Chair Rudine. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner, was that Ashley? Bonta? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, consent agenda calendar is approved. Our next item is item number 7 for the public hearing. The first item tonight is, I believe, the Harmony Village project. Okay, and I see we have our crack team assembled. Before we get into the hearing, does anyone wish to disclose ex parte contact or anything of that nature? Just going down the line.
Yes. I had conversations with the applicant and the applicant's engineer.
Okay, thank you both. Do you feel like you can move on in an uninvolved way?
Yes.
Excellent. With that, we'll ask Albert to please introduce the item. Oh, excuse me.
Thank you, Chair. The item before you tonight will be presented by our planning technician, Eileen Lee.
Hi, good evening, Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the Planning Commission. My name is Eileen, and tonight I will be presenting the Harmony Village project. The request is to construct a 10-lot attached single-family home subdivision on a vacant 1.07-acre site located at the northeast corner of East Monte Vista Avenue and Scoggins Court. The request includes a categorical exemption from CEQA, a conditional use permit, a minor design review, and a tentative parcel map. Here is an aerial view of the project site. Adjacent land uses include residential, such as Lee's Manufactured Home Park to the northeast, as well as the Lincoln Corner Apartments to the west. Also located on the site are commercial uses such as the Jiffy Lube abutting Scoggins Court and East Monte Vista, as well as CVS and O'Reilly Auto Parts. To provide some background on the project, in 2005, various structures were removed from the site and the area became vacant. And in 2022, City Council approved a disposition, development, and loan agreement, otherwise known as a DDLA. And in 2023, City Council approved a DDLA amendment, which changed the residential housing type from single-family detached housing to a duet housing type. And in August of 2023, an application was submitted for Harmony Village. Up on the screen is the current project status, highlighted in red. Currently, the site is mostly vacant with a number of dried grasslands and several trees. Located to the left is the general plan map. The property is considered general commercial, and the density requirements is 8.1 dwellings per acre. And in this case, the minimum is 9 units for the site. To the right is the Vacaville zoning map. The property is zoned commercial general, otherwise known as CG, and in our land use and development code, single unit dwellings that are attached are classified as a conditional use, and standards are based on the density type, in this case, residential medium density. To summarize the project, the request is for a categorical exemption from CEQA, a conditional use permit, a minor design review, and a tentative parcel map. The site is 1.07 acres and currently consists of 7 parcels. The request is for 10 attached single-family homes, otherwise known as duets, and the 10 units consist of 1 2-story model. The floor area is 1,554 square feet, and the floor plan consists of 4 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, and 1 garage space. These units will be income restricted to households earning no more than 80% of the area median income, or AMI. Access to the site is off of Scoggins Court and East Monte Vista Avenue, and the project includes requests for exceptions to the code standards. Here on the screen is the proposed tentative parcel map. Currently, there are 7 parcels, and the proposed map would add 3 additional parcels to a total of 10. Access would be located to the east off of East Monte Vista Avenue and Scoggins Court. Here are the proposed duet elevations. The duets depict a farmhouse design, and the materials consist of shutters, a mix of horizontal lap and board and batten siding, and composite shingle roofing. Here are some elevations of the side and the rear. The color schemes consist of 2 color schemes shown above in yellow and a variation of grays and blues. The landscape provided for the plan proposes front yard landscaping, as well as a variety of accent and medium-sized shade trees. As conditioned, there will be a minimum of 2 trees per lot. Shown on the screen are the city's parking standards for residential development. As required, this project shall have a minimum of 2 parking spaces. In addition, for guest parking, there shall be a minimum of 1 space per 3 units as per city standards, which comes to approximately 23 parking spaces that is required by the city. As proposed, the project will provide 2 parking spaces per primary dwelling, 1 located in the garage and 1 in the driveway. In addition, the project proposes guest parking spaces, total of 12 on-street spaces designated. As proposed, the project meets the city's standards for parking. As noted previously, the project will be income restricted. All units are restricted or will be restricted to households earning no more than 80% of the area median income for 45 years. Shown on the table below, it identifies the brackets of affordability levels The units will be restricted to low income, very low income, and extremely low income affordability levels. As part of the project, the applicant has requested 3 exceptions to development standards as noted below. First, house plan mixture. The code requires 3 house plan models with 3 elevations and prohibits the same house plans from being used on adjacent lots. Staff is okay with this exception as the house plans consist of 10 dwellings. In this case, this is a smaller amount than typical subdivisions with maybe 50 to 100 lots. In addition, this project is for affordable housing, and the visibility will not be seen as much from the public right-of-ways. Number 2, unbroken wall planes. The Land Use and Development Code prohibits unbroken wall planes of 25 feet or more. Similar to the first exception, staff is okay with this exception request as it is for affordable housing, and the unbroken wall planes are located to the rear of the elevations. And number 3, the code requires a 6-foot masonry wall when a project abuts a manufactured housing park. In staff's review of the project and taking a look at the adjacent land uses such as Lee's Manufactured Housing Park, the uses seem to be compatible as it is a residential housing type adjacent to a proposed residential housing type. And the applicant has indicated that implementing these standards would make the project infeasible for providing affordable housing. A few notable conditions of approval for the project stands as conditions number 6 for masonry walls. The project as conditioned will require a 6-foot tall masonry wall at key locations, for example, abutting the Jiffy Lube. In reviewing the project, the conditional use permit is required as the project is residential. In our Land Use and Development Code, commercial uses and residential land uses could have some compatibility issues. So in this case, as conditioned, the project will install a wall abutting the Jiffy Lube. In addition, there will be a condition to place a masonry wall abutting East Monte Vista Avenue for noise attenuation. The project site is located in the Vacaville noise contour, and as conditioned, the project will meet the standards for noise attenuation by installing this wall. Another notable condition is monumentation. Condition number 7, the requirement for neighborhood monumentation is required in the conditions along East Monte Vista Avenue as well as Scoggins Court. And then as this project is an affordable housing project, there is a component with the DDLA. Condition number 5 requires that the single family units are to be sold to households earning no more than 80% of the area median income for 45 years. As provided, the applicant has accepted the conditions except for the monumentation theming requirement along Scoggins Court. As part of this project, staff has conducted a variety of public outreach. For example, a new project notice was mailed for the project, as well as signage and postings for this hearing, such as a newspaper notice, an on-site signage, and the public hearing notice that was mailed out. No public comments were received for this project. Staff has determined that this project is exempt from environmental review under Section 15332, Infill Development Projects of the California Environmental Quality Act, otherwise known as CEQA, because the project is consistent, as conditioned, is consistent with the general plan and zoning. The site is no larger than 5 acres and is surrounded by urban uses, and there are no unusual circumstances or significant impacts with this project. With this, staff has determined that no additional environmental review is required. To conclude, staff supports this project as it meets the required findings as conditioned, complies with general plan and zoning designation, and the project complies with development standards as conditioned. Staff is recommending by simple motion that the Planning Commission 1, approves the categorical exemption from CEQA, and 2, approve the conditional use permit minor design review, and tentative parcel map for Harmony Village, subject to conditions of approval. This concludes my presentation. My name is Eileen. I'm here to answer any questions or comments, as well as the applicant. Thank you.
Thank you, Eileen, and welcome. We appreciate your first appearance.
This is my second.
Second? Of course, of course.
It's been a year.
What I meant is your first in a while. But thank you. We would like to invite the applicant up to make comments in a moment, but first I'm going to ask commissioners if they have questions emanating from the staff report.
I do.
Commissioner Fortney.
Eileen, can you pull the map, the proposed tentative parcel map back up? There you go. I'm going to discuss or ask questions in regards to condition of approval number 7 before the applicant gets up here in regards to monument signs. Is this just standard subdivision, whether we have 3 lots, 10 lots, or 300 lots that we're requiring monument sign, or is there a specific reason?
Hi, thank you, Commissioner Fortney. So as required by the code in the section for monumentation theming for residential development, some type of identity for the theming and monumentation is required for new subdivisions.
So the conversation I'm going to want to have at some point with this commission is 2 monument signs for this project, 10 units being an affordable project, is a cost that developer's going to have to take, which is going to be passed on to each unit. So I'm going to make a rough assumption that we're at least $10,000, $20,000 for 2 monument signs for these 10 units, which definitely only comes back to impact the residents that are going to be in this house, these houses. So I look at it as more of a burden than it is a benefit. And we can circle back when we close on discussion about whether we believe this item should remain or recommendation to have it removed. Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner Fortney. I made a note of that. Commissioner Wilkerson, did you? Okay. Oh, well. Okay. We'd like to invite Tom, representing the applicant, Mr. Filippi. If you could try to keep your remarks of about 5 minutes, if you don't mind.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Tom Filippi Engineering, longtime resident of Vacaville and a business owner down the street. I'm representing Habitat for Humanity tonight. We're very grateful to be here. We're excited. I am personally excited about this project. I have been a huge housing advocate in this community for years and years and years, and I am truly excited that we're bringing a Habitat project to Vacaville. We have with us, I won't introduce them all in the interest of time, but we have many members of the Habitat community with us here today, and if I can't answer a question, they'll be happy to get up and visit with you. We would say that we've worked very well with staff through this whole process. We've come to an agreement on all the conditions of approval and 100 and something pages of discussion. We're down to one item that we don't agree on. And it's item number 7, as Commissioner Fortney mentioned. And I'm going to read from an email that I sent to staff earlier today. Regarding condition number 7, we will work with staff on a creative solution for one project sign. Currently, we envision a single sign on the sound wall adjacent to East Monte Vista. This is an affordable housing project, and monumentation signage is likely to be a minimum of $15,000 to $20,000 per sign. And installing the second sign on Scoggins Court, we, in our opinion, do not believe it's warranted. If monumentation on Scoggins Avenue were $15,000, which we believe is realistic, it would add $1,500 to each and every house. And we don't believe this cost is in keeping with the affordable housing project, and we would therefore respectfully request that the Planning Commission waive this second sign requirement. I would note that I've lived here in Vacaville for 43 years. I live in a subdivision off Alamo Drive. We don't have any signage for our subdivisions, Alamo Terrace. I don't think our subdivision is benefited or hurt by whether there's a sign there or not. I live in a beautiful custom lot subdivision. I'm very proud of our subdivision, but we don't have a sign. And I don't, in a situation like this, I don't really see the advantage to the residents to be paying $1,500 at a minimum for a sign. Now, remember, we're not going to advertise to the community that this is a Habitat for Humanity project. We want residents there to be a part of the community and feel just as equal as everyone else. So we're not going to be putting Habitat logos on the project, and we want them to all feel good about it. So what we envision, if you've seen the sign on Spring Lane that I designed 40 years ago, there's a beautiful little sign with black tile, Spring Lane engraved. Very nice, very modest sign. Something like that would be beautiful here, not cost $15,000 or $20,000. And make mention of what the subdivision is, Harmony Village. So we respectfully, we've appreciated working with staff through this whole process. We understand where they're coming from. It's in the code. I get it. But this is unique, this is different, and it's really needed here in our community. So I'm here to answer any questions. I've kept it under 5 minutes, Chairman. Any questions?
Questions for the applicant?
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Filippi. We'll now open public comment. This is the time for the public to speak on the project, the merits. Happy to invite her. No? Bob is saying no. Okay. All right. Going once. Twice. Okay. Close public comment, and we'll now move to commission deliberation, starting with Commissioner Banta.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation, and thank you for sharing more about COA 7. Those are my questions as well. I'm really excited about this project. I love that Habitat for Humanity is coming to Vacaville. I love how you mentioned about the sign. That was going to be my question. What is the sign going to say? Does it have to, like, we want the community to not know that, oh, we live in the affordable housing project, right? Like, we live in a home today. And so that was really important to me. So I'm glad you touched on that. Overall, I really love this project, and I'm excited to see it going. I would definitely support one sign, smaller, more cost efficient, as that's what the project is. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Banta. John, Mr. Wilkerson?
Yes, thank you for the presentation. Thank you, applicant. I love the project. Wish we could have more of these in front of us, right? But we are where we are with this. Regarding the sign, I too agree with Commissioner Fortney and Commissioner Banta. It will be passed off to the consumer. And the sign on Scroggins to me makes sense because the thing we think about that we all want to make sure, like Commissioner Banta said, it's home ownership. They own the home. We don't want a stigma attached to it. You know, oh, you live there. That's how we talk about people right now. Oh, those people. I don't want them to be those people. I want them to be homeowners. And so I too would support only having one site on Scroggins. And question for staff was, you said some type of monument. What's the clarification and the flexibility do we have on that?
Hello, thank you, Commissioner Wilkerson. So staff is willing to work with the applicant on a less costly monumentation theming. In some cases, there are examples of lettering on masonry walls as an option. So I just do want to clarify that our staff is open and will work with the applicant on a alternative, maybe less costly than other monument signs we see today in subdivisions.
Okay. Yeah, I would definitely like to see that and push for that.
Albert's going to lose his job. Yeah, so it looks like I was going to eliminate both, but it looks like the applicant and the commission is comfortable with one monument sign on Monte Vista, removing the Scoggins Court, and we can leave it up to staff to meet with the applicant after with our recommendation, correct? I just want to close with a big fan of Habitat and Andrew, your staff and everything that you're doing. It's good to see that you drug Mr. McCauley, Commissioner Robert back back into the chamber. So it was good to see you guys. This project's Tom only had 5 minutes. Andrew, I wish you would come to the mic and give this commission and the residents of Vacaville a little bit more history of how long this project took, if that's okay, Chair. Put a little bit of history back on how long this project took and how the application process is going to actually go with the homeowners.
Mike, thanks for the invitation. Thanks too to the Commission for this opportunity to speak to you just for 2 minutes about this project. Really got its start in 2017. Our then board president spotted the site, as he often does, looks for opportunities for us to develop. That started the process of looking at how many houses we could fit there. Of course, there was a density requirement that our architect, Nancy, who's sitting behind me, figured out a way to get those 10 units in there in a really wonderful, I think, development. I want to take this opportunity to say something about how the application process goes, because we exist to build affordable housing for low-income families, generally only between 50 and 80%, never more than 80% of the area median income. And generally do outreach. One of the things within the DDA is we've giving preference to local families, those who live within Vacaville, but also perhaps as far within the county, no further than outside, all within Solano County. Currently have a need for housing. The current living situation is somehow substandard. Second of all, they're willing to partner with us because we will require of them 500 hours of sweat equity. The families, partner families who are selected, will help us build their homes. We have a project going on in Fairfield right now. It's 3 homes. I invite you to go and take a look because you'll see exactly what's going to happen on Scoggins is happening on Walnut Avenue in Fairfield right now. And then the third requirement is that the family is able to afford a mortgage. We'll finance it so that it's affordable. They'll pay no more than 30% of their income for housing, but we'll be looking into the credit history to make sure that they're a good credit risk too. So in a nutshell, that's what we intend to do on Scoggins at Harmony Village. We are as excited, I hope, as you are to make this happen now, 6 years since it started. And I'm available for any questions if you have any. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. And congratulations to your whole team. Okay. Thanks, Mike. Commissioner Vargas.
Yeah, I'd just like to add, my mother lived in the Markham area, Holly Lane, Markham Avenue for 10 years. And specific to the signage in that area normally means stigmatization. And I'm good with minimal signage. I'm really happy about this project. I'm very pleased about the project because I know what it means for ownership for African-American and Latino families. So I kudos to you. I'm really happy with the fact that Habitat for Humanity has come in here and done this. So again, I'm ecstatic about that. So thank you for the presentation.
Commissioner Vargas. Vice Chair Rudin.
I just wanted to chime in and say that I was very excited to see this project on this agenda, and I'm really glad to see that Habitat Humanity is here in Vacaville, and I really hope to see more projects coming before us. And I just also wanted to show my support for the minimal signage as well. And thank you for this project.
Thanks, Vice Chair Rudin.
Yeah, I will put a motion forward for sure. Question about the exclusion of the signage fee. Is that an addendum to the motion?
So if it's something that the commission wants to do to waive the signage fee, then we could make that motion. That's in our subject matter jurisdiction. You could also invite staff to work with the applicant. It sounds like they might be nearing some kind of a workable solution.
Fine.
The current condition requires 2 signs, one on Monte Vista, one on Scoggins Court. So if there's a motion to be made that would revise that, it should be articulated in the motion to revise condition number 7 to require only 1 monument sign on Monte Vista.
So condition number 7 would need to be altered to reflect the requirement of 1 sign. And I assume that you will still work with the applicant to bring down the cost of that 1 sign. We enthusiastically, it sounds like this is just a home run for us, and we're delighted to see that that there's everyone's working well together. With that, I'll entertain a motion.
Okay, I will read the motion. So by simple motion, approve the resolution approving the categorical exemption, conditional use permit, design review, and tentative parcel map for Harmony Village project at northeast corner of East Monte Vista Avenue, Scoggins Court, subject to the conditions of approval, thus waiving the condition of signage, fees for signage. Or is it one?
Well, we're making it so that the condition would only require 1 sign.
So the condition being 1 sign requirement. That's spelled.
Yeah.
Is that good?
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Banta. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Wilkerson? Commissioner Fortney?
Yes.
Commissioner Vargas?
Yes.
Commissioner Lightfoot?
Yes.
Commissioner Bonta? Yes. Vice Chair Rudine? Yes. Chair Klein?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Excellent job. Good job. All right, we'll move on to the next item on our agenda, which is 719 Markham Avenue General Plan Map and Zoning Map Amendments. I see that we have, oh, wonderful. Payman. This is going to be fun. Take it away. Oh. Take it away. While you're getting situated, I just want to make, do we have any ex parte contact to disclose for 719 Markham? None for me. Okay, very good.
Good evening, Chair, Planning Commission. So this is the first of 2 items related to implementation of housing element and some of the programs that are part of that housing element that was adopted just earlier this year. So this first one is regarding 719 Markham, and the proposal specifically is to change the general plan designation from residential high density to public park and change the zoning from residential high density to parks and recreation. Just a couple of shots. One is the aerial showing where the site is on Markham Avenue, and to the north you'll see the Rocky Hill Trail, and it's surrounded by some vacant sites, but also multifamily residential generally in that area. And on the right you'll see sort of the street view of the site as well, generally flat with some slopes and some trees. So in terms of the background, the site is a city-owned parcel on Markham Avenue. The applications tonight are reaffirmation of the previous environmental assessment, general plan map amendment, and a zoning map amendment. Really, this comes from during staff's presentation of the housing element to City Council back in June. The City Council directed staff to remove this site from the city's inventory of residential sites. They felt that this site was an appropriate high-density site for that neighborhood, and they directed staff to remove it from that. And that removal requires changing the general plan designation, but also the zoning designation. So you see on the left, again, the general plan designation going from residential high density to public park. And on the right, you'll see existing and proposed zoning going from residential high density to parks and recreation. The proposed parks and recreation zoning is consistent with the public park general plan designation. Really, there aren't any plans right now for development of the site. It could be a number of recreation-related uses there. It could be special purpose facility to meet the needs of a certain sector of the population, or it could be just sort of in its natural state as well. So that ultimate design of the park would involve the Parks and Rec Commission. But at this point, it's simply changing the zoning to take it off our residential inventory. And staff's recommendation obviously is consistent with what the council directed staff do, which is to change the zoning. So this request meets the required findings. It complies with general plan and zoning. Use of the site as a park or open space will be beneficial to the neighborhood, and it complies with staff's direction from the city council. So with our recommendation, it is that the planning commission recommends the city council adopt a resolution regarding the environmental, amending the general plan map by changing the general plan map land use designation for 719 Markham, and also introducing an ordinance changing the zoning for that site. That concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Commissioners, any questions before we move on to? Okay. We'll now open public comment. Seeing none, public comments closed. We'll bring it back to commission for deliberation and feedback to the staff. Looking around, nothing. Okay. Vice Chair Rudine.
I think a great presentation, answered all the questions, and I think this will be a great use of the space, so I'd like to make a motion.
Vice Chair Rudine.
Oh, and it's a long one.
I invite you to make the long motion.
Please put the slide back up for me to read. Okay, I'd like to make a motion to adopt a resolution of the City of Vacaville City Council considering the general plan final environmental impact report and the supplemental environmental impact report and the addendum to the FEIR and SEIR, finding that no subsequent EIR is required pursuant to Section 15162 of the California Environmental Quality Act guidelines, based on the substantial evidence included in the addendum and amending the general plan map by changing the general plan map use designation for 719 Markham Avenue from residential high density to public park. And introduce an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Vacaville amending Title 14 of the Vacaville Municipal Code by changing the zoning map for 719 Markham Avenue from residential high density to parks and recreation. Anybody else?
Is there a second? Commissioner Wilkerson?
Yeah, second.
Terrific. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Wilkerson? Yes. Commissioner Fortney? Commissioner Vargas?
Yes.
Commissioner Lightfoot?
Yes.
Commissioner Bonta?
Yes.
Vice Chair Rudine?
Yes.
Chair Klein?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Wonderful. Our next item is 7C. This is the LU P11.4 and LU P-P12.3 General Plan Text Amendments. I would first like to invite commissioners to disclose any ex parte contact. Okay, none to disclose from me. With that, I'll invite Payman to continue his wonderful presentation.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. This is the second item related to housing element implementation. Specifically, this is related to land use element policy 11.4 and land use element policy 12.3, but also adding a new land use element policy as directed through our housing element that was adopted again in June. So specifically, the proposal is to amend three elements. Land use policy 11.4, which is to reduce the separation between industrial, business, and technology parks and residential from 200 feet to 50 feet. P12.3 to encourage missing middle housing, or really should be to encourage a variety of housing that includes missing middle. And then a new policy to require the Northeast Growth Area specific plan to provide thoughtful transition between residential business parks, industrial parks, and technology parks. So on June 27th, the council adopted the housing element. Within that housing element action, there were a number of programs that were adopted and a number of programs that we still need to adopt. We'll be coming back to you for the next couple of years or 3 years probably. So one of those items was to, again, change those two land use element policies and create a new one related to separation between industrial parks and residential, but also a variety of housing, and to sort of pinpoint the Northeast Growth Area, since that specific plan is going to be in the works to create those transitions. Land use element policy P11.4 is the one where it requires separation to reduce from 200 feet to 50 feet. And this sort of goes back to the deliberations that we've had with our consultant and then with council regarding, are there any constraints to development of residential products in Vacaville? And this was one of them that was looked at as could have the optics of a constraint where we have such a large separation. And so the recommendation was to reduce that from 200 feet to 50 feet. And as you'll see on the next slide, in terms of our business parks, they can be really grouped into 9 separate areas. Not all those areas have residential that adjoin the business parks. So where there are areas that, for example, Maris Industrial Park off of Elmira, towards the end of that Commerce Lane, there are 2 empty parcels that do adjoin residential. So for that, if that were developed with this policy in place, there would need to be a 50-foot separation. Now that would increase the setback on the industrial side, which would still provide that 50-foot separation, but it is really in essence reducing that from 200 feet to 50 feet to encourage sites that back up to industrial technology parks to be available for residential development. In terms of the new land use policy, which is would be 19.7, this is again mentioning the Northeast growth area as that as that project sort of takes off and the scope of it is prepared. We want to make sure that there are policies in place to encourage the specific plan, since it does involve a number of different land uses, to be thoughtful about how those land uses relate to each other and any sort of transition that needs to occur between residential and non-residential business parks. So this new policy would again require the specific plan to, as is mentioned here, thoughtful transition between residential areas and those business and industrial parks. Land use element policy 12.3 is intended to encourage variety of housing for different segments of the population. So the proposed amendment would be to encourage missing middle housing, and again, related to 19.7 to require new specific plans to provide a variety of housing types, including small lot, single family, detached and attached, single family attached, and just a number of varieties. So making that very specific land use policy that's not in place right now. The section that's crossed off really relates to a mix of housing types, but it doesn't really get specific about the types of housing that the council wants to see through the housing element and through the housing strategy document that they approved and reviewed as well. So this would be the change to this particular land use policy. So these recommendations, and again, implementation of the housing element, they do comply with the required findings as we identified in the staff report, does comply with the general plan, with the housing element, with the implementation efforts that have begun and sort of are ongoing for a number of years. And really, again, the perception of constraints related to housing development is something that that we're trying to address by reducing that buffer, and also support the housing element and housing strategy in terms of the goals that they set with a variety of housing types that the city wants to see rather than the typical single family detached that we see on sort of larger subdivisions of Vacaville. So with that, our recommendations that the excuse me, the Planning Commission recommend the City Council adopt a resolution regarding the environmental review and amending the general plan land use policies 11.4, 12.3, and 19.7, which is the new housing variety policy. That concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Cold bench today. No questions.
Making it easy.
All right. Do I have, well, why don't I go ahead and open public comment? Seeing none, we'll close public comment and bring it back to the commission for deliberation. Commissioner Lightfoot.
So in dealing with the changes in the housing part of this element, and we're talking globally about the Northeast growth area, is there a way we can incorporate at least a specific requirement of commercial in that mix? Now, because we have an opportunity to make especially with higher densities, a walkable type atmosphere that encourages less use of vehicles in the area, and with higher density might make a better mix of what we're going after there. If there's a requirement for commercial, if when a proximity or number of units or something in the similar.
In terms of requiring specific plans to have separate, particular separations from commercial and residential, or adding residential as an element?
Like mixed use.
Yeah.
Or a commercial within, commercial zones within that new swath of land that is in close proximity to the new residential units. Because I feel, here's my perspective, we've been building a lot in Leisure Town area, and it seems like there's now beginning to be a less commercial type businesses that are within that region, and making driving farther to them, and they're not, not a walkable type of situation, where now we're going to be increasing the density, but we're not, I want to make sure that we're considering that we're providing commercial use to the residents.
So this particular policy is not intended to sort of outline the scope of what the specific plan is going to look like. It's intended to make sure, in relation to changing the policies with separation between industrial parks and residential, that the specific plans have that point in them specifically. When it comes to laying out really the details of the specific plan, that's it's not related to this particular policy, but perhaps Director Morris can speak to the specific plan.
I would just add, this item is before the commission because it's one of our housing element requirements to vanquish this really large separation requirement between industrial and residential. But we will be at some point bringing to commission consideration of specific plans for the east of Leisure Town area. And that will be a time to really get into what should those plans consist of and what mix of uses is appropriate.
And I'm correct, this is really mixed use that we're talking about, right?
So I'm sorry, I cut myself.
Well, or mixed use, as I understand it, is, the typical situation where you have commercial, ground floor commercial housing above. And so the goal is to have active transportation be, the default mode, but you don't need to get in your car and drive long distances or short distances, whatever. You don't need to get in your car because it's mixed on within proximity. Oh, sorry.
No problem. And so my comment is, mixed use is one of the ways you can get more commercial in and make it walkable. But I was speaking more commercial in general about how we can make sure that we have a certain allocation or proximity. This does technically help that by reducing the setbacks. But I think Director Morse answered my question, that with this, how hopefully I will say to the commission that when we go to reviewing the future residential in the east area that we're expanding in, that I believe that we're starting to get out of balance in the commercial that is available in that zone, in that area of Leisure Town Road specifically. So hopefully that we as a commission can come together and make sure that we make commercial areas that are walkable to the future residents in that area as a consideration when we're looking at it.
Director Morris, and then Vice Chair Rudin? Nothing? Do we have Vice Chair Rudin?
So as far as my understanding for this is that for future development, and this seems to like it'll really impact the Northeast growth area the most, where we have industrial, we'll no longer have these large green spaces between industrial and residential, correct?
Well, it's both. It's specific. So the new policy 19.7 is directed at those new specific plans, but it also applies to existing
current ones we
lands.
have, yeah. But it's more having to do with that distance between industrial and residential. Okay. I don't really have much in the way of questions. I just wanted, my comments were more so, I've had to spend a lot of time recently down in San Jose, and I've seen how they've kind of done this successfully, and how with some new development for residential that have been put next to industrial, they actually kind of tie it in, and it looks kind of cool. So I don't have any questions, but it's more so I just have this nagging feeling that in about 10 years, this might come around and a future council might have to reap the complaints of why are they doing this? But I understand why. And it's, you know, we need to start squeezing housing in. So not squeezing housing, I didn't word that right, but this is the direction the state's going, and we need to stay on track with the direction the state's going. The other thing, my other comment is on the amending of the second part where we've traditionally done 75% single family and 25% multifamily. I really, really, really hope that the council can get creative with filling in this missing middle and getting beyond just having single family, getting creative with different housing types. Those are my comments.
Do you want to make a motion?
It's another one. Okay, and with that, I'll make a motion. I'd like to make a motion, recommend that City Council adopt a resolution of the City of Vacaville, City Council considering the general plan final environmental impact report and the supplemental environmental impact report and the addendum to the FEIR and SEIR, finding that no subsequent EIR is required pursuant to section 15162 of the California Environmental Quality Act guidelines based on the substantial evidence included in the addendum, amending general plan land use element policies LU-P11.4 industrial/residential buffer and LUP12.3 housing mix, and adding a new land use element policy LU-P19.7.
Thank you, Vice Chair Rudin. Excellent. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Fortney. Nancy, will you please call the roll?
Commissioner Wilkerson? Commissioner Fortney? Commissioner Vargas?
Yes.
Commissioner Lightfoot?
Yes.
Commissioner Bonta? Vice Chair Rudin? Chair Klein?
Yes.
Passes.
Thank you. And thank you, Payman. We've now reached item number 8. This is business, the Universal Design Study Session. We'll first hear a presentation by staff, followed by commissioner questions, and then we'll open it up for public comment. Director Morris, would you like to introduce this item?
Thank you very much, Chair Klein. I just wanted to introduce this item by saying that this is the first of several presentations from one of our college interns. The commission may not be aware that the City of Vacaville has a robust college intern program, and we pay college students to work here in various departments to provide, really do all kinds of things. Sometimes it's collating things and stuffing envelopes. But the current crew of interns is stellar, and so each of them will be coming before this commission to present some work they've done on behalf of the planning division. So our first presenter is Angelina Clara. She is a Vacaville native and really is doing an excellent job in all things planning and building. And with that, she is going to present universal design.
Awesome. Welcome to the commission.
Hi, thank you. Good evening, Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the Planning Commission. I will be presenting a study session on universal design. So staff is requesting that the commission receives a presentation on amending the city's development review process to implement universal design principles, publish information on the city's website, and consider amendments to the Vacaville Municipal Code requiring the implementation of universal design options with all new home construction. Some background information. In 2002, the California legislature passed Assembly Bill 2787, which required the Department of Housing and Community Development to develop guidelines and at least one universal design model ordinance that could be used by cities for implementing universal design with new construction and home modifications. In 2003, the Assembly Bill 1400 was passed, which required HCD to develop guidelines and a new universal design option checklist. In 2005, the first checklist was created, and in 2007, it was modified to be more user-friendly for consumers and builders. In June of 2023, the City Council recognized and adopted Housing Element Program HE2B, which requires the city to encourage all new units to be universally designed for both occupants and visitors, or can be easily adapted for accessibility modifications. There are 7 key principles that describe universal design. The first is being equitable use, so it can be used by a variety of abilities. The second is personalization or flexibility of use, which accommodates for a wide range of individual preferences. The third is simple and intuitive, so any user can easily understand how to operate and use the design. Fourth is awareness, meaning the design communicates necessary information to the user, regardless of their surroundings or the user's sensory abilities. The fifth is wellness or tolerance for error, which protects the user from any possible danger. The sixth is comfort, which minimizes the amount of physical effort needed to use. And the final principle is sufficient size and space, meaning the design accommodates different postures and mobility, as well as providing enough space to use assistive devices or personal assistants. So why is universal design important? In Vacaville, the Vacaville's housing element requires the city to meet the needs for seniors and persons with disabilities, and requires the city to encourage all new units to be universally designed so they are accessible for both occupants and visitors, and or be easily adapted to include accessibility modifications. In addition to the program, the program requires the city to provide information on universal and adaptable designs on its website and at the building division counter by autumn of 2023, and continually updating it as new information is available. Okay, so why is universal design important? So in Vacaville, residents with disabilities have been correlated with lower income households, more diverse demographics, and areas with fewer resources. The current statistics on Vacaville's population show that 24.6% of households are senior-headed, 11.8% of population have disabilities, and 30% of households are overpaying for rent. This indicates that there is an overall shortage of rental housing for special needs groups, and therefore the city must meet the needs of seniors and persons with disabilities. So staff conducted research by reaching out to other jurisdictions such as the City of Dublin and the City of Berkeley, as well as looking at other resources, including the Housing and Community Development Department and advocacy groups such as the Universal Design Project. Through our research, it became evident that the implementation of universal design increases home value, supports independent living, and accommodates multi-generational households. However, some challenges were also brought to our attention, such as difficulty with the timing for improvements, issues with the checklist format, and a lack of community and staff awareness on universal design. As previously stated, the program requires the city to encourage all new units to be universally designed so they are accessible for both occupants and visitors and or be easily adaptable to accessibility modifications. Based on our findings, staff organized recommendations and guidance for homeowners, tenants, and home builders. These recommendations have been separated into categories, with the first being large modifications for home builders. During the initial design phase for new residential units, modification features such as installing light switches, outlets, and thermostats between 15 inches to 18 inches above the floor, installing residential elevators or lifts in two-story homes, or ensuring bathrooms have a 5-foot diameter turning radius. These could be incorporated. The second category is small modifications for residents and homeowners. Minor improvements including at least one stepless entry on an accessible path to travel, installing handrails in hallways, or lowering people viewers at front doors can be offered to meet the inclusive standards. In addition to interior renovations, homeowners and tenants can do exterior improvements to landscaping and hardscapes to remove tripping hazards and debris that obstruct accessible travel, such as checking for loose or cracking bricks, tiles, or concrete on walkways, overgrown landscaping that encroaches into walkways, and ensuring new concrete includes textured rough surfaces that provide traction during weather events. Furthermore, homeowners can consider installing technological equipment such as smart lock systems, security cameras, medical alert systems, or fire alarms to help create a safer environment. In addition, they could reach out to other resources such as the AARP Home Fit Guide offered by the American Association for Retired People that provides a more in-depth option for those looking to transform their home into being more inclusive. In addition to these recommendations, the city is also publishing informational resources such as a webpage and a brochure, as well as updating the developmental review process to include applications and a submittal checklist with universal design. And these exhibits are also included in the staff report. Some future ordinances the city could consider would be the California Department of Housing and Community Development's Universal Design Model Ordinance and their New Home Universal Design Checklist. However, if those options are not what the city seeks, then they could consider other or create a new ordinance option that requires universal design options for new model home buyers and requires new homes and new apartments to implement a universal design checklist. In conclusion, Vacaville's housing element requires the city to encourage all new units to be universally designed. To fulfill this requirement, staff has created a website, a brochure, and a developmental review process to satisfy the city's housing element program. That concludes my presentation, and if the commission has any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Terrific job. Commissioner Wilkerson.
Great presentation. Thank you so much. This actually hits close to my heart. I have an uncle who's been in a wheelchair for most of his life. And so watching the struggle he's gone through in terms of housing really hits home. And so seeing that we're adopting these universal designs to help people with disabilities really, really speaks to me, because I watched what he went through in the early 80s and 90s and so on, and how hard it was to find something that we take for granted that is so simple, that it becomes a burden and a struggle for others. And so I also like it that it's for new homes, because in my day job, we had a simple request for a new home builder. And it was one of these types of small additions, and they wouldn't do it. But I knew there was state law behind it, and I knew that it should be done. And it was a simple ask. And the developer chose not to do it, and that's fine. They moved on. But knowing that this now is in place, it's really going to help a lot of families who are looking at new home builds to open up their mind of what they can have, and not just say, you're only going to have this. You're only allowed this. They're going to have every opportunity that everyone else has, just like we talked about with Harmony House and the stigmatisms. There's also stigmatisms with this. And so I'm really happy to see the city of Vacaville embrace this. Thank you so much for your presentation.
Other questions for Ms. Clara? Okay. We'll now receive public comment. Seeing none, close public comment and bring it back to the commission for deliberation and to provide some direction to our wonderful staff. Well, obviously, you guys did such a great job. There's no direction to provide. Very thoroughly researched. I'm glad that you reached out to other cities. I'm interested to see the website. I think these are tools that need to be absolutely publicized. I didn't see anything about a social media plan, but I'm assuming that would go part and parcel. And I don't know, I guess what I didn't get from this is what, for the development community, how this would be, I know, folded into the design review process, but obviously that's the, consistent with what John just said, the development community really is going to do the brunt of the heavy lifting here. So I guess the feedback would be, from me, would be, social media as part of the website. And it would be nice to know, like, what are the results? So a lot of times we put these things out, but we don't really know what the results are. And I'm sure that we'll get an update. Is what my hope is, to know that this is somehow reaching the right audience and that we're able to measure our effectiveness with this new initiative.
That's what we're looking for. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Okay.
I know we also do outreach to local trade communities, but and we've done some in the past, but I would love to see this as well as an informative thing for the local realtor groups and other entities who understand the process, because if they're not informed, sometimes it may not be followed through or whatnot. So I just want to make sure the outreach, like Chair Klein is saying, we also reach out to other groups to let them know what is out there. So they're informed when they're out taking their buyer around or that process. So thank you.
And you know, actually, since you mentioned it, it would be nice to know, like, where are the communities that are doing it well? Because if we know, you gave some excellent examples about what homeowners and others can do to make things more accessible. But just what stands out to me about this is for existing homes, that there is a role for homeowners to also do something about this. I mean, it's a horrible thing that 30% of our residents are overpaying on their rent. And I don't know if we can do anything about that with this, but we have to bring that number down. And I don't know to the extent you were able to determine that figure, but I guess that's, you know, results if we're able to see that because of what we're doing, we're able to bring down that, you know, really high amount of people who are overpaying for their rent. I mean, that's we should actively be working to bring that number down to zero. Okay. Seeing no other commissioner comments, we'll move on to the next item, item B. And this is the Planning Commission meeting calendar.
Thank you, Chair Klein and members of the commission. It's time to talk about next year's calendar for Planning Commission meetings. That's been presented in your packet. You'll notice that it's pretty much the same regular Tuesday, except for when we get to the end of 24, we'll be planning on meeting earlier in the month of November and December to avoid holiday conflicts. So we are looking for you to adopt this calendar if you are so moved to do that. And that would wrap up this item.
Thank you, Director Morris. Any commissioner questions? Okay, we'll now open public comment. Seeing none, we'll close public comment and bring it back to the commission for deliberation. Do I have a motion? Moved by Commissioner Wilkerson. Is there a second? Seconded by Vice Chair Rudin. The clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Wilkerson?
Yes.
Commissioner Fortney? Commissioner Vargas?
Yes.
Commissioner Lightfoot?
Yes.
Commissioner Bonta? Vice Chair Rudin?
Yes.
Chair Klein?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. We will now receive our director's report. Director Morris, please proceed.
Thank you, Chair Klein. So I have a lot of updates since the last Planning Commission meeting. First of all, I want to make sure you all know that in September, the council proclaimed that October was National Planning Month. We celebrated that as a staff. And then on October 10th, the council did a lot of things, particularly two of them really will impact the Planning Division's work program in the next year or so. But first, they did approve the Villages Abandoned Development Agreement Amendment, and they denied the appeal of the Montesa House Plan, so that project would move forward as approved by the Planning Commission. They also authorized staff to issue RFPs for an inclusionary housing study. We're working on that RFP now, and we're going to get it out before the end of this year to get someone on board to help us with studying the feasibility. And then they also authorized us to issue an RFP for the Allison Priority Development Area Specific Plan. This is a planning effort for which we've received $1.2 million from the state of California. And the goal is to really look at how to take an area that is pretty built out, but to really make it a better place for the people that live and work there, with a lot of focus on Peabody Road and Elmira. Those two roads need some help. So anyway, that's an exciting planning project that we'll launch in the new year. And then October 24th, the council approved the Weber Road Construction Yard Development Agreement as recommended by the commission. And then the council held a study session and directed staff to move forward with general plan initiation request to plan the urban reserve. That was a big night. That was unanimous on the part of the council. Those are my council updates. Next slide. We're still looking at the new year, and it's not that it's looking fuzzy, it's just that we're looking at what can we bring to this commission in the near term. So you could expect sooner than later, actually, to see the Millennium Center General Plan Amendment and rezoning that was initiated by the council. And then as Planning Manager Bivand alluded to, we have a lot of housing element implementation items. So those are things that you'll start to see on commission agendas, probably starting off in January. Now we have the Building Division Monthly Report, and I will be presenting this. And if you have questions, we can always go back. I'm going to go kind of quick. So building permit activity has been steady, but is slightly down from last month as far as our overall building permits issued. No new multifamily permits, a few single-family house permits. On the positive side, our revenue is up by about $500,000. So we've had some high-value permits over the last month. Let's go to the next slide. This shows a monthly comparison between October of, let's see, actually, oh, this compares this month. So we actually issued 40 more permits overall, and then revenue was down by about 36,000. Actually, that's pretty much steady. Inspections have been slightly down. We had a humongous peak this summer with 1,500 inspections in a single month. So they're down a little bit, but still our inspection activity remains incredibly steady. I think the next slide really touches on that. Okay, so here's our permit activity showing you from January of this year through the end of the year. And I guess what I'd point out is building permit activity is still really steady. It was in the 300s at the beginning of the year. It kind of swelled to the 400s in the middle. And now we're still hanging in there at just slightly over 307 for the last month. Let's go to the next slide. These are inspections. There's that 1,500 inspection spike that I mentioned in August of 23. It was quite a month. It was very busy out there. But honestly, we always do at least, really about 1,000 inspections a month, and we're pretty much there. And then this is the slide that shows solar permits in relation to building permits. And as predicted, they're trending pretty similarly. Our solar permit activity, though, is definitely down since the changes to state law. And then let's go to our planning manager for the current planning monthly report.
Thank you. Okay. So for District 1, we've had, so what I'd identify here are new applications and what was been approved. So for District 1, Eubanks Court General Plan Amendment Initiation, that was an application that we received. And what was approved was an expansion for the Father's House campus. For District 2, new applications for Scott's Residence preliminary review, a GPA initiation for the southeast corner of Fry Road and Leisure Road, and also GPA initiation for Roberts Ranch for parcel map initiation. GPA initiation. What was approved was Elmira Road monopine wireless tower, some house plans, and a patio cover. For District 3, Happy Home Montessori and Philly cheesesteak food truck temporary use permit. Those sound as exciting as I thought. And no approved projects in District 3. District 4, no new applications and none approved. District 5, we had a new application for Lower Lincoln Valley Neighborhood K, which is the first neighborhood that's being prepped for home builders. What was approved was Montesa house plans from Ascenda Capital that the director mentioned, but also parallel house plans from Discovery Builders for the same subdivision in case the Ascenda Capital project didn't go through. In District 6, Potter's Place North preliminary review, and was a new application approved, Villages of Vannon Meadows Unit B, which was a Bright Sky subdivision, and Villages of Vannon Meadows DA amendment that the director mentioned. Some of these are repeats for advanced planning. We are going to continue to come to you with housing element implementation programs. Inclusionary housing, as the director mentioned, on October 10th, the council authorized staff to proceed. Same thing with the Urban Reserve and the Allison PDA that's already been mentioned. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Wilkerson.
I just have a question. Do we have an update on North Village AP2, where we're at with the timeline of what's going on with that?
I can address that. We're still awaiting resolution of private conflicts between the two parties. And once we have a clear indication as to who is in control of the site, we'll be able to proceed with that application. It's a court thing. It was within like a 45 or 60 day time period. So we're in the middle of it right now. And we're kind of on standby waiting for that outcome. I had a couple announcements I wanted to make. One of them is that with the downtown specific plan implementation, and in particular, mostly with my building staff, working with people who want to intensify the use of some of our downtown buildings, it's really come to my department's attention that we have quite a few unreinforced masonry buildings in downtown Vacaville. And it makes it very hard to bring in the kind of uses we want as a city because it's expensive to do seismic retrofits. And it's the kind of thing that people don't anticipate. So I'm working with my building official on a code amendment that would ultimately adopt a code that still achieves the same level of seismic stability when someone does the retrofit. But rather than treat the old building like it's being built brand new from the ground up, it actually allows some flexibilities, recognizing the complexities with historic buildings. So this is something that we're doing property owner outreach. We have a property owner meeting on Monday. We'll be doing some broader downtown outreach, but I'm trying to make this sort of a Christmas special. It's slated to go to council in December, so it can go into effect in the new year. Because we have quite a few projects downtown that will benefit from it. And then the last announcement I had tonight is that we are actively recruiting some vacant positions right now. We're trying to hire our plan check engineer for the building division, which will bring our plan review in-house, saving time and money for our customers. I'm working on hiring my assistant director. We're refilling our permit technician position in the building division. I have college interns actually helping sit in that chair and keep things moving right now, and it's been fabulous. And then we also have launched and are currently recruiting for a senior planner to take on our long-range planning team. So Paimon and Albert and others and I are keeping a lot of different things going, but thankfully our planning team and our building team are doing good teamwork. So that's all I had tonight on announcements.
Thank you, Director Morris. With that, we will move to item 10, Commissioner comments. This is portion of the agenda to inform each other of potential areas of interest and interagency meetings and the like. Commissioner Wilkerson.
Yes, thank you so much. Just two quick items. One, congratulations to all the local teams that played football in the playoffs, and I believe Vanden and Vacaville High School will be continuing to play this Friday or Thursday, depending on the holiday. So congratulations to them. And on October 28th, I attended the special board meeting for the Vacaville United School District. And the items were on there were facilities and the LCAP. And the frustrating part for me is time and time again, people come down here and say, we don't plan for schools. We don't talk about schools. And we direct them where to go to have those conversations. And people say they want to have those conversations. But when the conversation and the opportune time was there, 3 people from the public showed up. Ex-Councilmember Sullivan, Parks Chair Vasquez, and myself. That was it. So at times it's hard to hear everyone say, hey, we don't think about schools. You're not planning for a new school. We need a new school. And then when the time is to voice your opinion to the school board, very little people show. And so it's just heavily weighing on me to say, how do we increase that better? Where's the opportunity to have that conversation? Because clearly people want to come here and have it, but they don't seem to want to take it to the school board. So, I mean, in other municipalities, they'll have the school district and the cities come together for a joint meeting every year. And it's something I think Vacaville should consider, because time and time again, these questions keep coming up. And time again, it doesn't seem like we have an answer. And we've been hearing about a new school. Hopefully there'll be one proposed here soon, a new high school. And so that's just all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner Wilkerson. Mike?
Nada. Director Morris, staff, Angelina, great job today.
Definitely have a future in this, Angelina.
Yeah, for sure.
Else? Okay. Before we adjourn this meeting, I want to take a moment to acknowledge the loss that one of our members, Commissioner Rudin, is currently experiencing. Amanda recently lost her father, and we want to extend our heartfelt condolences and support during this difficult time. Losing a loved one is never something anyone looks forward to. She suffered a profound loss. So it's important for us to come together as a commission to offer our support and sympathy to Amanda. Our thoughts and prayers are with her and the entire Rudine family as they navigate this period of grief and mourning. So in honor of Amanda's father, Audie Atchison, let us take a moment of silence to remember and pay our respects. Thank you all for your understanding and compassion. Let's adjourn this meeting, keeping Amanda and her family in our thoughts and prayers as they go through this difficult period. Thank you. We're adjourned.